Hello there, it's me again. And this week we're going to be talking about something a little bit different. Friends of mine and I in OK1 have been talking a lot about the five senses. And the one sense that I was thinking about talking about with you guys this week is the sense of touch. When we touch things, we feel all different sorts of feelings. And we can feel things and touch things with our skin. And then our brain gets a message and tells us about what we are touching. So it's very interesting, friends. Our brain can tell from what our fingers are touching or what the rest of our skin is touching, what it is that we're feeling. So if it's a very, very cold day outside and our skin is feeling cold from the weather, then our brain tells us that we're feeling cold and we should put something warm on to wear to keep our bodies warm. If we eat food that's just come out of the oven and it's really hot, then we can feel that. We can feel the heat in our mouth, and our brain tells us, maybe you should stop, that hurts. Maybe you should stop and let the food cool down before you keep eating. So it's a way that our body tells us about what's around us and keeps us safe too at the same time. So I was thinking about different things that have different textures, different feelings when we touch them. Some things are soft, like my little rabbit here. Some things feel soft when we touch them. And some things feel hard, right? Like my water bottle. Can you hear that? That's not a soft surface, that's hard. Some things feel, does anybody know what this is? It's like a little scrubber brush. Some things feel rough. The texture of this sponge thing is really rough. It doesn't feel smooth. Same thing with this. I've got this little brush. Can you run your skin along that? That feels rough too. But my water bottle, it's hard, but it's smooth. It doesn't feel rough at all. There aren't any bumps or edges. It feels really smooth to touch it. Okay. Look at this. I have colored rice inside this container, and when I feel that in my hands, it feels rough and bumpy too. It feels very rough and bumpy. But the container that it's in is really smooth. All right, here's another one. Look at the side of my pot. Can you tell? It's got bumps all the way around, down it. This has a bumpy feeling too. So when I touch this with my fingers are sending a message to my brain, even though I don't even know that that's happening. And my brain is telling me that's bumpy. All right, here's one more. Here's a fun one. Does anyone know what this stuff is? See how it moves in my hand when I squeeze it? This is squishy. Does anyone know what this stuff is? It's really squishy. I can't squish any of the other things that I held up like this. Play-Doh. Play-Doh is squishy. So all different kinds of materials have all different kinds of feelings and textures. The texture is how something feels. So, like I said, this sponge is really rough. its texture is rough. And the water bottle has a smooth texture, no bumps or edges. So that got me thinking about maybe learning how we can show texture in our drawings. There is a way that you can draw things and make it look like it has different kinds of textures. So I thought maybe we could show that with trees. Okay, tree trunks. I'm not going to show the tops of the trees in my drawings. You can show it in your drawing, but I'm just going to show the tree trunk. So I'm going to start at the top and do a line down like that. And I'm going to do another line down here. And maybe I'll show what's the start of the branches at the top. Just the start. And for this tree, I wonder what kind of a texture. Maybe I'll give it lines. Like this. What kind of a texture do you think this feels like? To me, this looks pretty smooth. Maybe a little bit bumpy where these lines are, but it looks like a mostly smooth tree. All right. Let's draw another tree. So I'm going to draw this side. And another side. And I'll draw just the top of the branches again. This one I'm going to draw different kinds of lines. And I'm going to draw squares all over it. See how when I draw little lines, makes it look like there are little squares covering the whole tree. To me, this looks like the tree is a little bit rough feeling. But do you see how when you add different kinds of lines to different things when you draw, it makes them look completely different, doesn't it? Look at that. So I've totally changed how the tree looks. And even though the trees, the drawing, the outline of the tree is pretty much the same, because I've done different lines on them, they look like they feel different. We can imagine how they would feel, how the texture would be. Okay. I'll do one more. I've got room for one more tree over here. And maybe for this one, I'll do look at those lines. They're like zigzaggy lines. How do you think that would feel if you ran your hand over it? How would it feel to touch this tree? That looks like it might feel a little bit jagged. It might not feel so nice to run your hand along the side of that tree. This tree looks a little bit spiky. So the trees, the outside, the outline of the tree is pretty much the same for all of them. But because the lines on the inside of the tree are so different, they look like they would feel very different. Now, I have said many, many times that I use marker most of the time when I draw pictures with you, because that is what shows up better on the camera. So that's normally what I use. You can use, to color your picture, you can use any kind of material that you want. You can use paint at home if you have paint. You can use crayons or pastels. Anything you want, pencil crayons. I'm going to show you one that I colored, and it has even different textures. So see, this one I used kind of wavy lines to show a bumpy looking tree. I made my lines go back and forth like waves. This one I just tried to use long straight lines because I wanted this tree to look very smooth. And then this tree, I did zigzags. I did jagged lines because I wanted it to look like it was a very, very rough tree. And I've colored it because it's from my imagination. I colored it any way that I wanted. I know that tree trunks are not normally yellow or orange or red. I even have some purple on here. But because it's from my imagination, I did it any way that I wanted to. I thought that these colors looked nice together, so that's what I chose. When you do your trees, if you have a different idea, you can do the texture on your trees with different kinds of lines. Maybe you have a totally different idea than I showed in these drawings. You could do polka dots. You could do rectangles. You could even do dots like that. Right? You could give it spots. Maybe it feels like it has little holes in it. Right? You could give it polka dots. How would those feel to touch, do you think? You can do yours any way that you like and color it any way that you like. But I thought it might be neat to play around with different lines to see if you can make your trees look like they have different textures, different feelings. Okay? Have a great time with this one, friends. I can't wait to see all the beautiful trees that you come up with. Bye-bye for now.